Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. God. Now, today I'm hoping to finish on a high because I started the day and I did a first brew in the Igulu brewing system before I went on holiday, and this morning I did the tasting of it so I can then basically bring that video to a conclusion and get it out. So I'll edit it and get it out quite soon. So I did that, and a little heads up, I was a bit disappointed. So I was a bit disappointed. And then I've just finished doing Fuller's new beer, Griffin Gold, and I was disappointed again. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is going good. So I'm doing this beer now, and hopefully I can finish on a high, I can finish on a positive, because with two negatives, I don't really want a third one. So today we're doing Samuel Smith, Old Brewery, Tadcaster, Taddy Porter. You know, should I make a Sam Smith joke? I probably will at some point, but I'm not going to do it now. But watch out, it may happen. But yes, so we're doing the famous Taddy Porter, and it's 5%. This bottle is 355 because it's part of the taster kind of pack with a variety pack. It's usually a 550ml bottle. We've covered in the past that I'll put the price down below for the actual what it costs per bottle. I think you're going to buy them in packs of 12. I'm not going to go on about price again, that type of stuff, because I've done it in previous ones and delivery costs and all that type of stuff. I'm sure if you've watched it before, then you know my feelings on it, so I'm not going to keep repeating it. And if you haven't, then go back and, well, I've made my kind of opinion very clear on what I think of the pricing strategies of the products, regardless of how good they are. And now this is a bit of a strange one. So what they're basically saying is, this is the dry, full-flavoured dark beer that goes wonderfully well with selfish. Selfish or shellfish? I'm not really sure. I've never ever thought, oh, porter. Wish I had some prawns. Oysters. You know, strange that though, isn't it? Seeing how popular shellfish is around the world. Why is this not sold around the world to go with all this? Why is it not on the menu, the drinks menu of all these wonderful seafood restaurants around the world? And there's the problem when you come out with shit like that. Seriously, shellfish. You fucking twats. Might as well be selfish rather than shellfish. You know what I mean? Utter fucking shit. I can't be. I went on in the last video that I did, in the last review, about sick of bullshit. And right now, because the general election's on and all this and all the campaigning, and it's just multiple bullshit. But you also start to notice that there's so much bullshit in just everyday life, you know? You can't get away from it. And then straight away on this one, there you go, a nice porter that goes well with shellfish. You know what I mean? Well, so let's do a crease in it so we can pop it open and see what it tastes like. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm sure it probably will be a nice beer. Because I can't complain about the beers I've had previously, flavour wise or anything else. I can complain about price and all that type of stuff, which I have done, so I'm not going to keep doing it. But it'll be interesting. There we go. Right. Baby glass, baby bottle. Although I'm not complaining about that, I think that's a good idea. So having smaller bottles available in a variety pack so people can try your products to then maybe think, well, do they want to actually order, you know, a pack of 12 or a pack of 6 or whatever you sell them as? That makes sense. Oh, even just now, getting some nice aromas. It bodes well. So, for people in the podcast, it's not completely black, it's a slightly kind of dark brown, very dark brown, and a slightly tanned head. And for some strange reason, I've got an itchy hand. Doing well with the itch. 7 years since the last one, apparently. Right, aroma wise. Well, I'm getting molasses. I'm getting slightly, I'm getting molasses and bitterness. So, now the thing is, well, the bitterness can be, molasses bitterness or dark chocolate bitterness, and it's hard to kind of differentiate which one it is. But there is a kind of molasses, kind of black treacle edge to it. So there is. I think there's any licorice in there. There might be. I'm not exactly picking. Well, I'm picking up something that could be construed as licorice in the aroma, but yeah, definitely kind of black treacle or molasses. And yeah, there is a kind of bitterness I can smell. Kind of sort of bitterness hue, but I can't say what it is. So let's see what it tastes like. Yeah, very malty. Definitely very, very rich in flavour. Very kind of molasses, black treacle-esque. And it has a little bit of chocolate bitterness to it. Or slightly kind of, is it coffee grains? Well, there's a bitterness to it. I'm just trying to kind of identify it. It's quite a dark bitterness that you would associate with dark chocolate, but you could also do it with a really dark roast coffee grind. I think it's an actually mixture of both, to be totally honest. It's not one thing, but a bit of both. And that bitterness, there's a slight kind of dual layer to that bitterness. So it's slightly kind of cacao bitterness. There's a little bit of kind of dark roasted coffee green bitterness as well. But I think the predominantly is more of a kind of a cacao, dark drinking chocolate kind of edge to it. But yeah, the nice kind of molasses, although it's kind of died down a bit, and the mouth has had a few sips, and the mouth is kind of got a bit more acclimatized. So unfortunately, the kind of black treacle or molasses kind of flavour tones have died down a bit, which is a bit of a shame because I was really enjoying it, and it just kind of slowly kind of calmed down a bit and kind of settled. Which is taking a little bit of edge off it because I'm really quite enjoying that intensity of flavour, which is slightly kind of settled a bit, which it's there, but that kind of cocoa kind of bitterness is a lot more prominent now within the kind of flavour ratios because of that. And it's changed a bit. So it's changed to be a bit more chocolatey, especially kind of in the back end of the mid-tongue, moving on to the kind of back of the mouth. And what you were getting in the front of the mouth with all this kind of molasses or black treacle, kind of good, rich kind of flavours, that richness has kind of died down a bit as well, and it's just it's not quite as good as it was at the start, which is usually is the other way it can be, and then it kind of settles down, you get acclimatized and you start noticing other flavours. But you're not really noticing new flavours or additional complex flavours. What you are doing is noticing how the ratio of the flavours are changing and the intensity as well of these flavours, and slightly kind of in a negative way. It started off as a kind of nice, kind of rich porter. That's what it started, the first couple of sips. And then as I got acclimatised to it, the ratios have kind of changed now, and it's kind of, it's coming back at me as a, how would you say? Well, it's coming back at me as a bit more sessionable. So so yes, it's got a bit lighter. Which is a shame because I was quite happy the way it was. I was quite happy with how it started, and it just kind of slightly settled down. It's becoming a little bit more sessionable and easy drinking, and it just kind of, the richness is kind of gone down a bit and everything else, and yeah, just the enjoyment level has dropped a bit for me. I mean, I was like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm just enjoying it a little bit less now. It's a bit strange. And again, it's more of this kind of, it's a slight dryness to this kind of cocoa edge to it. It's not like a dark chocolate, it's more like a cocoa, cacao is the proper name, which is basically unsweetened kind of dark drinking chocolate. And because the kind of richness has dropped, the sweetness level's kind of slightly dropped as well, which has allowed these flavours to become slightly more prominent because there's nothing really kind of cancelling them out or kind of holding it slightly back, and it's just, yeah. It's a little bit of a shame. So it is. Yeah, a little bit of a shame. Right, let's break down these flavours. Starts off, well, it did start off with a nice kind of rich kind of molasses kind of multi-tones, a little bit of grey, not a bad level of sweetness, quite nice actually. You kind of married up well with the kind of intensity and richness of the malty kind of molasses tones. But then as the mouth got acclimatised, it's really kind of watered back a bit, and yeah, they're not as intense, they're not as predominant now, and the front of the mouth just doesn't have the bang anymore that it did. So it's just kind of lacking intensity now. The sweetness is kind of dropped back as well. Just all the flavours has kind of been, it's almost like being divided by two. It's almost halved. And yeah, it's a different beer now. Unfortunately, not in the best way. I mean, it's still quite nice and quite pleasant, but it's went from initially a kind of richer kind of tasting porter to a kind of slightly kind of more sessionable kind of dialed back porter, which just shows you maybe it's the contrast of me going from drinking a golden ale to then drinking this, and it's a case of, oh, it starts all big and then of course it settles down. Like, but I preferred the start than what I'm getting now. So move on to the kind of mid-tongue. And you start getting little kind of bitterness tones coming through in the mid-tongue, around about the kind of middle of the mid-tongue. The other flavours as it comes into the mid-tongue to the middle of the mid-tongue, they're very much of a muchness. They haven't really changed from the front of the mouth. So you just start to get these little highlight tones, mostly kind of cacao kind of tones with a little bit of bitterness tones following in. And I think again a little bit of kind of dark roast coffee, just a little bit, and it just mostly from a bitterness point of view, not really from a kind of flavour point of view, but you just know it just feels that there's a slightly kind of two-tier kind of bitterness there. Again, the bitterness is not very strong, it's actually very mild. So that's one of the things I was thinking, that the case of as I become more acclimatised and of course the beer flavours start to settle, then that would allow the bitterness to maybe, you know, as other flavours just slightly settle, just give a little bit more edge to the bitterness and just give it a little bit more strength to that. But it hasn't really. I mean, overall, it's quite nice. Just wish it didn't have that start, because it kind of took me down a road that it wasn't going to take me down. It kind of pointed me in the wrong direction initially. Gave me a bum steer. So let's kind of like redial this back. So it goes from the kind of the mid-tongue, and you've got this kind of dual layer of kind of bitterness, one kind of just licking accent and one a little bit more. And then, yeah, it finishes just with kind of slightly kind of cacao tones in the back of the mouth and the aftertaste. Again, with that little kind of bitterness attached to it, but it's a very light bitterness. Surprising enough, I mean, it could be a heck of a lot stronger. I mean, overall, it's a nice beer. Is it the best porter I've tasted? No. Is it a drinkable porter? Very much so. I mean, it's nice enough, but for me, I want a little bit of richness to it. Or if I'm not getting the richness, then if you're going to go down the sessionable route, then I want a bit of a bitter kick to it. I want a bit of bite to the back end then. You know, if you're not going to give me the body, then give me the bite the other way then. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to give me one or t'other, as I say. You're either going to give me the richness of body, or you're going to give me the bite of bitterness. And this isn't giving me either, really. It's kind of sessionable and drinkable, but it doesn't really have that kind of level of bitterness to kind of draw you back in for another drink, you know. It's like, so yeah. So what would I give this out of 10? I mean, I'm not going to say it's a bad one. It's not a bad porter, but it's not a good porter either. It's nothing great or wonderful. I mean, I don't know what it's like in cask and everything else. It might be a lot nicer, but as what it is like in the bottle here and now, oh, I've had a lot better. I've also had a heck of a lot worse, I'll be totally honest. But yeah, it's just not quite delivering what I thought initially it was going to deliver, and it just doesn't have the two edges of, or one of the two edges of the porter that I'm kind of looking for. I'm either looking for a richness and a kind of velvety, silky kind of porter, with nice complex, thick, multi flavours, or I'm looking for something a little bit more sessionable and lighter, which this is, but I'm looking for a bit more bites at the back end with the bitterness and that deep chocolate kind of bitterness, a good lingering bitters, and I'm not getting that either. And it just kind of makes it kind of, you know, just not delivering in any way that I would want it to. Unfortunately, just a bit kind of subdued is probably the best way. Just feels subdued. So that, what would I give it? I'm going to give it a 5. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 because, yeah, it's just not really floating my boat. I mean, it's nice enough, it's drinkable. If I was in a pub and everything else and that type of stuff, I've seen it on there, depending what else they had, yeah, I'd probably go for it. Or if I'm going to be there for a few, then at least one of them would be this. And it'd be nice to try it on cast. But, yeah, just slightly lacking. And out of this is the third one I've tried. And out of the 3, this has been the worst one. This is, when I mean worst out of the 3, it's not a bad beer, but it's not as good as the other 2. So that's where, yeah, the other 2 were a lot better. And I just feel that after tasting the other 2, they're slightly not quite delivering with this one. But there you go. So yes, so it's a 5 out of 10. It's 5%. It's a 550ml bottle. I'm certainly not going to sing the praises of Sam Smith in this one. Thanks for watching. Cheers, and bye for now.